Summer League had standouts from guys drafted at the top of the draft and elsewhere in the draft. So James now will conduct a way too early 2024 NBA redraft based on the Summer League. Find out where your team's rookie ranks next on Locked on NBA Big Board. Welcome into Locked on NBA Big Board. I'm Leif Thulin, and I'm joined by James Barlowe. It's always fun when we chop it up, but today is going to be extra fun because we're going to do a way too early redraft of the 2024 NBA Draft, which just happened less than a month ago. So we're going to tell you, based on Summer League and our expectations entering Summer League on these rookies, which guys passed the eye test, which guys we think their Summer League indicates success to come in the NBA, which is obviously yet to begin for these guys, and kind of just dive into natural discussions from there. So I'm always excited to do this, but I also want to say before we get into it, because we always are ready to go and want to talk ball, but we got to hold our horses here, tell you all about FanDuel. And that's because today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All righty, James. So I think this is the weirdest exercise there can be. And sometimes it's obvious because, like, I don't care that Wembanyama went 2 of 13 in his debut last year. He was the number one guy. Like, even in that game, he did things that I'd never really seen before in a summer league. Well, this year's number one, I wasn't really that sold on. You weren't really that sold on Zachary Reed-Sachet. This year's number two, Alex Starr. I think everyone kind of penciled him into the top three, including us. But I don't think either of us were overly infatuated with him. And obviously, he struggled immensely. Reed-Sachet had some bright spots. But I don't think there's going to be that much loyalty to say, well, yeah, despite the poor summer leagues, relatively speaking, these guys are obviously here. So I think it's going to be really open. We haven't rehearsed this. I'm very curious to see how this goes. At number one, I got Stephon Castle, who I had number one to begin with. He played 2 games and shot a lot, and the volume was really, really high. Scored pretty well, but the volume, like I said, was really high. Defensively will impact the game. I trust the growth that he'll play with in terms of he's going to get better because he's going to have more reps on the ball. He's going to learn from mentor and Chris Paul. I likened him, not necessarily one-to-one player style, to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the sense that he's going to grow with Chris Paul, develop his game, and not necessarily be known for scoring out of college, but have this guile, this impact on the game. And I see it coming from that capacity. He's my number one based on the summer league, and he was my number one coming in. So I'll keep him there. Thoughts for you?
So I had Castle. I've mentioned before that I think he's going to be the best player from this draft. I'm not budging off of that. He showed exactly what I thought he had in the summer league with his pace, his ability to make plays. Obviously, we knew he was going to defend at a high level. He didn't shoot well, but he took good shots. So, like, that's trending up. I think he's more than a connector. I'm not going to argue with you about him going number one. Like I said, I think he has all-star potential. Even with what we saw there, I think that he still has, like, some Jimmy Butler type, Brandon Roy type game. Like, it was all evident.
Brandon Roy. I love Brandon Roy.
I said Brandon Roy. When the first podcast I did with my brother, I was like, hey, man, that might be Brandon Roy right there. So, but with my number one pick, I probably would go with Reed Sheppard for the Houston Rockets. I know me and you, we've had our discussions on Reed. I think our biggest question was, could he be a lead point guard in the NBA? And again, this is Summer League. Summer League is not real, but he showed you that he could be a lead guard, not just a complimentary guard. So, like, for me, in my notes, I got an arrow trending up. I mean, he was at 25-5, and he shot the ball well. He had some issues turning the ball over, but he looked like he had pace. He shot the ball well. The mid-range pull-up was there. He looked really, really good. So if I were in charge and I can do it all over again, and, you know, I think that the Hawks said he had Patrick Mahomes type. I don't know what that even means, but I'd take Reed number one.
Yeah, I mean, Reed's the guy that I think, deservedly got the headlines for how he performed because there was a question mark. Even for those who were high on him, it was still a jump in faith to say he's the point guard, considering in the second unit of a college team, he played the shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's because you had someone with phenomenal individual creation traits and creation for others ability in Dillingham. My biggest regret in terms of evaluating Shepard was when I watched him play at Kentucky, even before I thought about the NBA draft, I would think to myself, wow, this guy makes a tangible impact on the game in a positive direction. And I kind of forgot about that because of my belief that he couldn't play point guard and on offense and defensively couldn't play bigger, even though he makes an impact on the stat sheet defensively. I think I overthought the fact that when he's on the basketball court, there's a positive impact, and he showed that. And he showed the change of pace, the ability to put pressure on both the rim, but just the defense in general, and changing his pace. Handles looks pretty good, so he was my number two on there. So we're up there. In the same vein of thinking, I still have Castle one. I still have questions about Shepard in terms of fit on the
Mm-hmm.
Rockets because the Rockets are going to have to feed a lot of hungry mouths. Like Jalen Green is going to want the ball and
And a contract.
and a contract, and you're going to say, well, the best player on their team, in my opinion, is Şengün. So Şengün needs the ball. He's their best creator. Now you have Green to feed. You've got last year's number 3 pick, Amen Thompson, who we all thought was the best passer of that draft class. So if you have that, and you typically have a shooter off the ball and someone who's a deficient shooter who's a great passer on the ball, you would think that the ball would be in the hands of Amen Thompson over Reed Shepard. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I'm just saying that's conventional wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have concerns about how immediately he translates for the Rockets just because of how many mouths they have to feed and some of those defensive questions I've posed before. But it's undeniable how good he was in the summer league.
Yeah. So I think we can agree that regardless, we can flip them, but 1, 2, it's Shepard and Castle, right?
Yep.
Who do you have number 3?
Bub Carrington.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be one where if you're going to look at this 5 years from now, it's either going to be a home run, like, wow, that guy's on it, or like, oh, what an idiot because he's just taken the summer league.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you who've been listening to us a long time, thank you to the everydayers. I've been saying Bub Carrington's really good for a while, and James can back that up. He's been right there with me. I've had him in the lottery for over, I'd say, about 3 months now, and he's a guy that I think has the clearest path to being a first team all rookie or a rookie of the year because he's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to be able to create for others, and his game is perfectly tailored for what the NBA prioritizes. Like, what's the most dangerous player to guard right now is someone who can shoot threes behind a screen, who can create advantages both from the three-point line and inside for himself and others. And he's really good at reading this screen game. His navigation of screens is great. Hits mid-range jump shots, hits pull-up threes. Not a great finisher at the rim, but he's got the guile and the size. He's a 6'5" guard. I think he had 15 rebounds in one of these games.
15 rebounds
Yeah, 15
game.
rebounds as a 6'5", 18-year-old. Just turned 19 the other day.
Turned 19. He still looks like a little kid, too.
Yeah, and I saw him in person at the Combine, and when he was warming up for his individual workout, he was just like dribbling a ball like the spider drill, like you used to do I used to do that in the basement when I was bored, and I was like, I gotta get energy out. He seemed to be doing that same kind of thing, and he just has an ease with the ball in his hands. This may be out on the limb because you obviously have Sarr, Reese Sachet, some of these guys that went high, but I really think Bub Carrington, for both the immediate future and the long-term future, is a guy that I think in a redraft will be picked high. And I'll take him both based on that strong summer league, but also I had momentum on the Bub Carrington train for a while beforehand.
Not going to argue with you there. All right. I think fourth, at least my fourth, and he might be the biggest riser next to Bub Carrington, but I can't deny what Kel'el Ware is doing in Miami. He's played very well. And the great thing is Miami's not shutting him down. Like, they're not in the rush. They're like, hey, man, you got a good thing going. Let's keep that confidence going. Let's keep that pressure on him as far as like just displaying his motor. He's at 17 points thus far, 8 rebounds, a block and a half, steal and a half. He's playing well. He's making 1 3 a game. That's all you ask. You don't need him to be a splash brother. But I think Kel'el Ware has in our way too early redraft, he's severely outplayed his position at 14 or was he 15? Excuse me.
15.
Yeah,
I
I would
have a
take
number
him
4 as
first.
well. Like we're on the exact same page. So yeah, James and I are typically thinking pretty similarly. We talked about this on numerous pods we did entering the draft, and we had similar rankings. But it looks like our redraft, even our assessment of basketball that has been played by these guys, is the same. I think Kel'el Ware is one guy where, because he's going to be on a team with winning aspirations, his numbers will not necessarily reflect how good he has played or how well he could have played in a different situation. But I think it'll be the best for him in the long term because they'll instill winning cultural values into how he plays the basketball game. He'll play next to Bam Adebayo, who demands excellence defensively, who creates you great shots offensively. Bam wants to play the 4. That allows Ware to play his natural 5 instead of playing out of position, as he did at times at Indiana, playing alongside a non-shooter, Malik Renew. I'm really optimistic for Kel'el Ware, and like we talked about, if you were to rank this draft on talent, like Gigi Jackson would have been number 1 had he stayed in. Like that's a big talking point in the draft discussion. Well, Kel'el Ware would have been a top 5 pick on talent, and here he is showing off that talent in the summer league, and the first opportunity to show how good he is relative to his peers. He's top 5 in our redraft. So we'll get back with the number 5 pick. We're going to take a break quickly and come back with more of the way too early redraft after the summer league. So allow us some grace. But right now, James and I are pretty aligned. So maybe we're on to something, maybe we're not. But let me tell you guys a little bit about FanDuel. I love sports. I always have, always will. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't quite sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. And all I have to do is open the app and dream up my bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Also, are you guys watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis and opinions on news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All righty, so Leif Thulin and James Barlowe here with you for segment 2. We are going to continue our way too early NBA 2024 draft redraft. So far, the picks have been, for me, it's been Castle 1, Shepard 2, number 3, Bub Carrington, number 4, Kel'el Ware. For James, it was Reed Shepard, Stephon Castle, Bub Carrington, Kel'el Ware. So we have the same 4, basically the same. I'll turn it over to you for number 5. Who is the number 5 pick in the redraft, transpiring less than a month after the actual NBA draft?
So this is where it gets tricky because I feel like these guys, again, we're factoring in upside, what I saw in summer league, and age. I know who I think the 5th best player is, but he's a little older, and you expect for him to be a little bit more seasoned. I'm gonna go with somebody who I wasn't as high on, and he played extremely well. I'm gonna go with Cody Williams right here for the Utah
That's who
Jazz.
I have too.
Oh, Leif, what's going on here?
I mean, I don't know, man.
So, like,
that's
Cody,
pretty crazy, honestly.
listen here. You talked to me about Cody in Utah, and I was like, man, he did everything that scared me about Cody Williams. He was standing there, he was chilling, he was not aggressive, he didn't do a darn thing. He was just running up and down the court. Maybe it's because Keontae was there, Bryce Sensabaugh was there, whatever. When those guys left, he was a lot better. He still doesn't really rebound, but he was putting the ball on the ground. And just like my biggest issue with him, he's such a talented finisher. Not necessarily super creative, but he's a finisher at the rim. You have to be aggressive. So in the 4 games that he did play, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 38% from 3. He got to the line. He was really, really good. I have no issue taking him right here at 5.
Yeah, I had him 5 before the draft, and he went to my Jazz, and I was ecstatic, and I've kept a very close eye on him. I've watched his games, and what impressed me the most, obviously the Salt Lake ones were not necessarily bad in terms of like, oh, that's not what I expected. He's been terrible. It's almost predictable because Keontae George was shooting a ton. You saw an emphasis for Bryce Sensabaugh getting shots up. You saw Taylor Hendricks getting an emphasis of getting the ball, and then in the second units, he just got lost in the fold, and you got a little discouraged from that. But then you go to Vegas, and he opens up with 21 points, but those 21 points were quiet, and I'd rather a quiet 21 than a loud 15. And what I mean by that is there's prospects that have had loud 10 or 15 because they had one really nice play. And Cody Williams had a poster in that 21. So you'd think, oh, it's a loud 21 then because he had a poster. No, he didn't shoot that much. He was extra efficient because he scored 21 points on actions that you'd see in the actual NBA, not him having the ball. And because he's the number 10 pick in the draft and he's on a team that wants him to play, they're going to give him the ball and shoot the ball. And he's going to predetermine this is going to be a possession that Cody Williams is going to shoot the ball. No, he's coming off curls. He makes the proper decision, attacks closeouts, gets the rim, and throws one down. His finishing was spectacular with both hands, adjusting in the air, over defenders, under defenders. Did a great job there. Defensively, uses his length to pressure the ball, influence shots. Like you said, not a rebounder. But I've said this to you and Richard a million times, so this is probably going to be annoying to you guys, but I haven't said it as many times on the air. Cody Williams, the reason I was so optimistic and why I had him 5th entering the draft and why I really wanted the Jazz to take him, and James and Richard can attest to this. We were off the air and I was giving this whole spiel on why Cody could fall the Jazz and how I'd love it to happen if the Hornets didn't take him. Is everything that Cody Williams, I would say, is deficient at can be improved with strength, added strength, and all the things he's already pretty good at. If he adds strength, he becomes really good at. So if you look at the best attributes of the players in this class, Cody Williams isn't far behind in those already. And then you add strength to him, which he is very, very thin, very wiry. I think he becomes better at those things, puts himself in the upper echelon of this class in terms of traits. And then his weaknesses, which already weren't that weak, it just wasn't, he didn't have any glaring strengths either that were so prominent. It made it like hard to pass him up, obviously, because he fell to 10th. I think he displayed those things already without having the strength. I think you put him in a strength program, he's going to get better. I think his shot looked pretty solid, a little bit like fingertip kind of follows through over the top of the ball, but it's all correctable. And a lot of these guys who had deficiencies shooting the ball, there's far worse displays of action of their ball that spins differently. And he played the game as if he was a role player, but starred in his role in a summer league, and that meant a lot to me. So we are same at 5. Number 6, I'll go to you again because I don't know if we're going to find a differentiator between us.
Number 6, I'm going to grade on a curve here because he was really, really good when he did play. And I will go with Zach Edey right here. The ankle injuries, I think he had 2 of them. Was it 3?
Yeah.
It might have been 2 or 3. And I know I think he had 2 in Vegas. Yeah. I'm going to go with Edey just because when he did play, he was really, really good. And he shouldn't be out there anymore. I'm going to go there. Yeah.
I like that. I wouldn't say I forgot about him because I have him just a few spots below. Mm-hmm. But because he kind of finished with a whimper as opposed to starting with a bang where he had 15 boards, he kind of made me think differently about him, not necessarily because of his performance, but I just didn't he wasn't as present at the end of the summer league. So I like that. I think in terms of when he was healthy and playing, he was pretty darn good. And I think he'll have an immediate impact. I'm going to go with number 6, Rob Dillingham. And I know I love Rob Dillingham. So everyone's going to be like, oh, of course you are.
I have him 7th.
But Rob Dillingham, when he had the ball in his hands, like the very first summer league game, he scored 8 points in 2 minutes. The last one, unbelievable efficiency. And he kind of gets unfairly labeled as this chucker because his body type resembles that of Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford. He's really efficient. He shot 45% from three at Kentucky. He's going to get good shots. He's going to be mentored by a combination of this sage, calm vet in Mike Conley and this hyper energetic, aggressive guy in Anthony Edwards. And that's the perfect combination for him to come off the bench and help that team early. And then later he might be a crucial piece. So this is one for a combination of just the flashes he showed at the Summer League, my evaluation pre-draft, and then what I expect for him down the road. I don't think he's going to be as loud of an impact as some of these guys in their rookie years because he's on a better team.
Mm-hmm.
But had he stayed with the Spurs, I think he'd be the pick to go rookie of the year, like in the same way Bub Carrington would be, because the pathway's open. He's got himself Victor Wembanyama. So he gets traded. It lowers his stock in the short term, but I think it may raise it in the long term. That is my number 6.
Dillingham, he might have had the best game of everybody that last game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can take into account that, Orlando didn't play some of their other guys. So I'm grade on that curve. But that 25 and 12 was loud. And even watching him, he just wasn't making shots. He got shots he wanted. A couple times finishing he's gonna have to figure out finishing. And he was finishing over Jay Huff that last game. But the talent is there. I was most impressed with his playmaking the whole time. He's always going to have the knock as a guy just because how he plays. You don't think he's going to pass, but he shows great court vision. And those are going to be easy passes to make to Cat, easy passes to Nas Reed, who can shoot, easy passes to Gobert. He can play, man. We know how we feel about Rob Dillingham.
Yeah, you guys know how we feel about Rob Dillingham, but let's see how you guys will feel coming up after the break. For my number 7, James has Rob at 7, so we're going to go to my number 7, and then both of our 8, 9, and 10s in the final segment. Round out our way too early redraft, and hopefully you guys let us know how you feel. But first, we got to tell you guys about eBay Motors, which is unbelievable as well. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all your parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Alrighty, welcome back to Locked on NBA Big Board. Number 7 for me on the way too early redraft. Just to recap for you guys, I had Castle 1, Shepard 2. Number 3 was, who did I have? Bub Carrington. Number 4, Kel'el Ware. Number 5, Cody Williams. Number 6, Rob Dillingham. So that's mine so far. Number 7 for me is the guy who went number 1 in the actual draft, Zachary Resache. And the rationale behind this one is Zachary Resache, I had kind of a lower grade on the entire time that he was projected to be number 1 or 2. And the reason of that was I just didn't see 1 or 2 ability on a roster. I don't see him being a number 1 or number 2 guy. But what I do see is an ability to fulfill a role, an ability to knock down open shots. And I think he did a good job of showing a little bit of change of pace, demonstrating improved athleticism since his season in France. And as he's been under the spotlight, he's improved with the ball in his hands. So I don't see stardom written all over him, and I don't see stardom written over all over these guys. But what I do see is an ability to make an impact and be a 3-and-D winning role player. And I do think 3-and-Ds are kind of overrated. We did a podcast on that. And versatility is valued. And that's why I value the fact that he was thrust into this position, into the limelight of being the number 1 guy. You need the ball in your hands. And I don't think he was amazing, but I definitely think he wasn't terrible. And sometimes it's really hard to have those expectations and try to score the ball when you're not naturally the number one scorer. And I thought he did a solid job. So I can project just the solid impact throughout his career. And like we said, it's not all off the summer league, because there's guys who had better summer league performances, both on a one-off impact or on just a total summer league, because they ride the wave, like Buzelis, Holland. They had each had one good game and impressive flashes in other ones, but one really good game. I think his projection, speaking of Risachet, is just a steadier wavelength. And I'm going to say that's my number 7, but I definitely don't feel super tied to this pick.
Yeah, I get why he only played 2 games. The French season lasted longer. They don't want to go. He has nothing to prove. I wish he would have played against Buzelis that game. I would hey man, you guys gotta let me play. But that's just how I am. I have him. I would take him outside of the top 10. He still averaged 15 in 2 games. He had a really good first game, second game, and he was okay. But it's just a lot of what you said. I think long term, I think he is a piece. And not somebody with star upside. And I'm not going to hold it against him because, he didn't ask to go number 1, but he went number 1. And, you're going to get graded on a curve, a different kind of curve regardless. But, he was good. I thought guys played better. And even long term, I'm still not as high on him. So, but that's fine. So I guess with my 8th pick, and let me just mention my top 7. I had Reed Shepherd 1, Castle 2, Kel'el Ware 3, Carrington 4, I had Cody 5, Edey 6, Dillingham 7, and number 8 would bang on the table, but I don't want to disrupt the audio quality of this podcast. But I told everybody who had listened to me that Jalen Tyson was a player, and he showed you he was a player. And yes, he's 21. He's a little older than these young dudes, but scoring, passing, defending, just playmaking in general. Drilled down to a limited role. He shot 44% from 3. He created his own shot. Yes, it's the summer league. Yes, summer league doesn't count. No, it doesn't matter. But he just checked so many boxes, and he was right there in plain sight for a team who needed somebody who could go right away. And it's kind of unfortunate because Cleveland has wings, but yeah, Jalen Tyson was hoping he could have had a triple-double with guys missing shots. And I mean, yeah, he's cold at basketball, man. I think people are overthinking it. I feel good about that one there.
I mean, I like Jalen Tyson. I was on the Jalen Tyson train early as well. For the listeners who haven't listened to us talk about him a bunch of times, how much of this projection is summer league related, and how much can he be this impact player going into the NBA? Because like we said, we have to evaluate what they did in the summer league, but part of this is projection of how they'll impact the NBA teams. So how much of that is your estimations of how good he'll be in the NBA versus how he was very good in the summer league?
My thing about him in the NBA is that a lot of it is, as much as it is what you can do, how good you are with the ball, this, that, and the other, it's what team you get drafted to. Yep. Now, the opportunities for him to be a primary or secondary ball handler, pieces have to move for that to happen in Cleveland. Darius Garland is still there. Donovan Mitchell just signed a big contract. They just paid Max Strus last summer, right? I think Okoro's gone, right? They just paid Evan Mobley. Is Evan Mobley somebody you're going to throw the ball to? Probably not, but he's going to get his touches, and they just paid him too. So do I think he will be a Rookie of the Year candidate? No. I have to look at what they do with Caris LeVert, but as far as just talent and just I would have loved him in Sacramento. I think
I thought. That's the pick I would have wanted him to
I think he starts in Sacramento. That's no disrespect to Devin Carter, but I think he starts in Sacramento day one, and you have a Rookie of the Year candidate there. But just as far as his ability to score and make plays, that's going to translate. It's just a matter of when will he get his opportunity to do so. And I just don't know if it's going to be in Cleveland. And if it is, it won't be right away.
I'm with you. I like him as well. My next one is Matas Buzelis. Buzelis, like I said, he had one awesome game where it was steal of the draft. This is why he's the most slept on player. This is the guy with the most potential. Those are all the headlines generated. And some of it's deserved because, he had a spotlight on him saying he was one of the contenders for a number 1 pick, but he fell to 11 due to inconsistency of the shot, inconsistency impacting the game. Well, he comes into the G League and he showed off that athletic, dynamic ability to be an impact of impactful offensive player at this 6'10" frame. With that kind of thin body, he looked like an NBA athlete. Like sometimes guys with that thin frame don't look that way immediately. He did. He looked filled out. He looked far more advanced from what you kind of became accustomed to, frankly. Like I got accustomed to him looking not the part, but hearing that he was the part, if that makes sense. And so he was good. Like that's my number 8 guy. He was good. He deserves to get some credit and move up. I do have significant questions about his jump shot, though. It still does not look good to me.
It's
and
slow. It's way too slow.
It's slow, and then the only times he gets it is when the defense wants you to get it. And that concerns me. But I'll give him the credit that he athletically looked better than the summer league. And sometimes that's not the case, because sometimes there's a lot of really good athletes that are deficient in skills. He looked more athletic than his competition, and he used that to his advantage. So I'll give him some credit there.
I'm not going to argue with you as far as him. Like, he looks the part, and I've said it before, but like, he's just a tease, man. Like, he'll have a game where he has 24, 26, right? And but like when you like really dig into like the, you get past the highlights on Twitter, like and nobody was efficient, right? But our biggest question with Madas is, can he shoot? And he, again, did not show you that he could shoot the basketball. So like, I get it. The athleticism, when he dunks, man, you like, oh, wow. He does some stuff. Oh, wow. And then it's just like, I just don't know if he'll be able to shoot. So him, and like they'll round out my top 10. So like him and Holland, they did more of the same thing that I saw from them from the G League. And again, you're not going to really not necessarily get a chance to show new skills, but they looked like the same guys that I saw from the Ignite season. Just like flashes of what they could be versus, okay, he's been in the lab. He decided to add this. So like I'm still kind of on the fence on both of them. Again, they had their moments, but it'll be interesting to see like how it translates. And with Madas, I mean, he may be in a position where he'll have free reign to get as many shots as he wants, because that team is looking the other way. Whereas Ron, I don't know, because yes, that team is not good, but there are other guys, other wings on that team. So it's going to be like, will he get an opportunity? I just was watching beforehand, like he really looked like Josh Okogie out there, man. As far as just like, and that's not like a knock. He looks exactly like Josh Okogie, man, when he plays basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I hear you. So we're winding down. Who's your number 9?
So I would go with, just because off of like upside, I still would go with Buzelis, and then 10, I would go with Ron Holland. But I mean, when we do the part 2 of this, I could argue in favor of some other guys. I mean, as bad as Sarr was, he still showed you some potential on the defensive end, and maybe he just needs some water poured on his face. Like, hey, man, we don't need the sidestep threes. But I would go based off of upside, results, just all the combination things we talked about. I would go 9 Buzelis, 10 Holland.
Yeah, I have 3 centers in my next couple. I couldn't quite decide. I'm at my 9 was Edey. Like I said, I was just a couple behind you because he was a little less in my head because he didn't finish out as strongly as he started, but that was injury related. He was impactful. I saw him in person. He looked thin in person. He obviously he's huge. He doesn't look thin in a bad way, but he looks thin in an ability to run the floor consistently type of way. I wondered if he'd have to start lumbering and kind of be a lumbering big. He looks like he's going to run the floor and be able to play at the NBA pace, which was my biggest knock. And then I was deciding between Sarr and Klingen at number 10. Klingen had a really strong finish, so that like stuck with me. But Sarr's got those traits that, in terms of his defensive switchability and those type of things, stick with you from the entire draft process. Klingen, I think, played better in the summer league, so you can make of that what you will, if who you want at 10. And then the other guy that I considered my top 10 you mentioned was Jalen Tyson. So we are very similar in what we rounded out there. I guess I'd go with Klingen at 10 if I were forced to choose, just because, look, he showed flashes of shooting threes, but I don't really care about that. What he did well is he passed the ball. That's the offensive trait that I thought was impressive. He blocked shots. I still don't think he's that great of lob threat, which is not great for his type of archetype. Like, he needs to be a better athlete. But if you can add passing, that makes up for it just enough. So that's our top 10 and the way too early redraft.
Way too early.
We're going to come back with some more renditions of this. Perhaps Richard will get a say on these. James and I will kind of continue going, building up through the draft. You heard our top 10. Maybe there'll be some amendments. We'll talk, think about, hey, maybe this guy had some good points, and maybe he had the flashes that we needed to think more on, because James and I both love film. We'll probably watch some of these guys just for fun anyway. So appreciate you guys for listening as always. Everydayers, thank you guys. Thanks for making us your first listen. With your second, make sure to tune into Locked On NBA, hear about the latest going on in the wide world of the association. And just to finish out, I got to ask you guys to check this out. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you guys, and have a great Monday. We're going to get more and more film watching and come back with more thoughts on the NBA draft that happened just a month ago, and we're going to redraft it for you this week. Thank you.